my podcast people, and thank you for joining me for yet another episode of my favorite online business podcast. If you are listening, watching, tuning in on the day that it drops, it is Monday, March 30th. Welcome to the tail end, the end of March. And holy smokes, it's flown by. I'm not going to lie, though. I'm here for this unseasonably warm weather in Southern California. If you don't live here, then you probably wouldn't know about it. But suffice to say, climate change is real. Fuck Trump. Fuck this administration. I feel like I haven't said that in a bit. But that's just like every episode. That's my feeling with my whole heart and soul, just forever and ever and ever. Fuck Trump. Fuck this administration. No real big biz or life announcements. Though we did get a new couch from Costco and I'm loving it. Love me some Costco. Love me some Costco times infinity. So we're going to hop right into today's episode, or rather into the main topic for today's episode, which is that it is never too late to change, which is an interesting segue coming on the tail end, the heels of a discussion about climate change, which at some point it is too late, but we're not there yet. So it's worth it to keep trying. Let's do the things. And I'm going to tie that, they're going to have a double segue. I'm going to tie that into today's main topic, because today's main topic is peripherally related to AI, and that's the tie-in, and climate change and things like that. But the impetus for today's episode was actually a comment that my good homie Wheels, Amanda Wheeler, she's Wheels Snacks, 2 S's, on Instagram. We'll link that. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Jojo. She made a comment. She left a comment on my announcement reel that I shared that I had when I rebranded I shared a reel that I had rebranded my other podcast, formerly known as ChatGPT Curious, to the brand spanking new Prompting Curiosity. And Wheels wrote, dude, you're just a stand-up person. Love the reflection. Love the rebrand. Love, all caps, that you don't feel boxed in and can pivot when you want/need. It's such an incredible example for all of us. Massive kudos. Wheels, I don't think Wheels listens to this podcast, but if you do, you're the fucking best. But in the sake of time and in the name of brevity, I'm going to point you to episode 35 of that podcast, Prompting Curiosity. And you can hear the full story about why I rebranded it. So we'll link that. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Jojo. But the TLDR, or I guess the TLDL, too long didn't listen, is that OpenAI, their bad behavior finally became too big to ignore, for me to ignore. So I fully moved away from ChatGPT. Claude is my daily driver now. I don't use ChatGPT at all. I canceled that subscription. We're done with that. And I fully rebranded the podcast. Right? So for those of you who had no idea that I have another podcast, surprise, I have another podcast. And it's called Prompting Curiosity. And it's a podcast for the AI curious. Right? It's a weekly podcast, comes out every Thursday. And it teaches you how to use AI, namely LLMs, large language models, with chatbots, ChatGPT, Claude. And it looks to help people actually understand AI. Which brings me back to the beginning of this podcast when I spoke about climate change. One, check out episode 2 of Prompting Curiosity for my very research take on AI and the environment. We will link that. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Jojo. And number 2, the technology, the AI itself. That's not the problem. The leadership is. LLMs, again, LLMs, large language models, that's what Claude is. That's what ChatGPT is. It's an LLM. They don't need the size and the scale and the power that CEOs like Sam Altman, he's the CEO of OpenAI, right? That's the parent company of ChatGPT. He's like literally the worst, right? LLMs don't need to be as big and use as much power as Sam Altman would have people believe and as they're doubling down on. It's a very F-150 American Tim the Toolman Taylor bigger, better approach to things that doesn't need to be the case. Right? AI is an incredible technology. I think that is quite possibly the technological advancement of our lifetime. And it doesn't need to have a negative impact on the environment. It does not need to. The leadership that is in power wants that and is pushing for that because they're going to make money through using those means of powering things, but it doesn't need to be the case at all. Right? We can use renewable energy sources. It doesn't need to be the case. It doesn't need to be as big either. Right? I know that there are no AI CEOs listening to this podcast, but it's never too late to change. Right? That is the title of this episode. It's never too late to change. But as it relates specifically to this episode and me talking to you fine folks, the message is the same. It's never too late to change. So the rebrand, was it a lift? Abso-fucking-lutely. I was deep in the computer for like 3 weeks. I had a lot to do on the back end because it's not just a podcast. And I'm not saying like it's more than a podcast. Like, it's literally more than a podcast. It's a whole brand and a website. And so the website had all the branding that needed to be changed. The biggest thing was the domain needed to be changed. And then I needed to have the same website, but switch the domain that it was being pointed to. I needed to change the Google workspace. I needed to change the email addresses. I needed to change the newsletter. I had changed everything. But I'm super fucking proud with how it came out, or super fucking proud of how it came out. And I would love if you want to check that out. promptingcuriosity.com. But more than that, yes, it was a lift, but more than that, was it the right thing to do? Abso-fucking-lutely. Also abso-fucking-lutely. And that was the biggest driver. I literally just could not ignore what ChatGPT was doing, or OpenAI rather was doing. And like, yes, part of the environment thing, like they are trying to deregulate, lower regulations, move away from regulations for AI. And it's like, oh, we need them. But why am I sharing this message, right? Yes, the impetus for this episode, the inspiration for this episode was Wheels' comment, but why ultimately am I sharing this message that it's never too late? Mainly because I think that there's a good chance that you listening to this might be on the side of things where you will just keep doing the thing forever. All right, when I sit down and outline these episodes and I'm thinking about topics for these episodes, I kind of try to think about who the audience is. I don't know everybody listens to this podcast, but I try to think about the audience, and I think I have a pretty decent feel for who the audience is. And it's my guess that you might be on the side of things where you're like, man, I committed, I'm doing it, and you just do it forever and ever. How do I know? Because that's me as well. Just be doing shit for years. I'm like, oh, still doing it. Why? Because I just do it. And, you know, not in a gross AI CEO kind of way where you just keep doing shit because you want endless profit, right? But rather you keep doing shit because you've built something and you've been doing that thing for years and years and years, and you enjoy it, or you enjoyed it at some point, and you have your loyal people, and there's nothing negative about it. But perhaps you're ready to change. All right? Let this be the permission that you don't need. It's never too late to change, ever. I did an episode not too long ago about stopping your business completely, and this is not this. This is kind of an iteration of that. Of it's okay to change and grow and do different things, right? Move away from this thing that maybe you've done forever, and then obviously, folks, as it relates to sunk cost fallacy, if we think of sunk cost fallacy. Right. I would love for you to just throw that shit right in the trash. Just like take it, throw it in the trash. Sunk cost fallacy, for those of you that may not know, right? Like, well, I've already sunk X amount of years or dollars into this thing, so I might as well just keep doing it. PT school degree and debt? Anyone? I don't think that this podcast has any MAGA listeners. I'm like 99.999% certain I don't. But also, if I do have that, if you are a MAGA person, same. Leave that shit, girl. Leave it. Leave that shit. It's not too late. It's never too late. People are probably going to be mean to you, but also you deserve it. But it's still never too late to change. All right. So if we think about the sunk cost fallacy, like as one end of the, what's actually real. Oh, hit my little thing underneath the desk. If we think about the sunk cost fallacy as one end of the what's actually real spectrum of change, I think on the other side, we have the skill of knowing when to change, right? So one side, sunk cost fallacy. Other side, the skill of knowing when to change. And I do like to think of it as a skill, think of it as a skill, which is perhaps something I do because when it's a skill, it means that you can get better at it. Like you can just learn and practice and refine that skill. You may never be the best at it, but like it's a skill, so it can be learned. Right? It can be acquired. So if we think about relate this to the niche for this podcast, online business, right? There are times, and we think about the skill of knowing when to change. There are times when it's best to stay the course and stick with that thing until it works, right? Launches, offers, your niche, Sometimes you need to stick with that shit until it is green light. It goes, it's doing the thing. And then there are other times also, with launches and offers where it's time to evolve. Right? And I think the biggest difference here is typically that for the former, right, when you need to stick things out, right, it's that I want you to stick things out because most of the time in this category, people are wanting to stop because things aren't working out. Right? And I want you to stick with it long enough for them to work out. The second category, right, where it's like it's time to evolve, that's usually the case for someone, a business owner or a business, where you stuck with things so long that they have worked, and now maybe you've outgrown them. Right? My personal example for this would be retiring the Instagram intensive. Rachel Strickland, she's going through right now her final round of the Audacity project. Right? These are things, and she's done 30 rounds. How incredible is that? Like, fuck. And you stuck with this thing. She stuck with this thing. We've stuck with this thing. Same thing with Legacy Mentor Mind that I ran with Jill. We stuck with it. We did that for 5 years, and it's time to evolve. It wasn't what I call Roomba-ing, where people are just getting started and they try to launch something and they don't get traction, and so they're I gotta go over here and do a completely different niche, and they try to launch something and it doesn't work. They're okay, I gotta go over here. And it's like, no, the problem is that you haven't stuck with it long enough for it to work. Right? Two different things there, but. To bring it back around to the inspo for this episode. If you don't like something, hit the bowl. If you don't like something, if something doesn't feel right, if something doesn't feel aligned, if something isn't vibing with your values, in that case, no matter how short or how long you've been doing that thing, understand that it is never too late to change. All right, we got a short one today. I'm not mad about it. Would love it if you went and checked out the new website. I'm like so fucking proud of it, guys. I'm so proud of it. Just when you go and check it out, you'll see. I'm super stoked. Would love it if you went and checked it out. Promptingcuriosity.com. And if you have a moment, all right, check it out. And maybe with the moment that you've spared and saved from this short episode, maybe, just maybe, you can use that time and a little inspiration from the website to go and change something in your business. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. As always, my friends, endlessly, one more time, endlessly appreciative for every single one of you. Until next time, friends, Maestro out.